Brad, you ready?
Have to go into
Yep.
the office now?
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we stand for the pledge?
We won't until February 20th.
I pledge allegiance. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
Here.
Mrs. Cotterman.
Here.
Mr. Mosier.
Here.
Miss Amy Walker.
Here.
Mr. Wigton.
Here.
And can I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Wait, who said that? Okay, thanks.
Second.
Second.
Roll call and discussion.
Yeah, I would like to remove the stipends for Brian Mosier, Chad Hutchison, and David Gilbert for line item vote, please.
Would you like to remove it for,
Line item vote.
Sure.
Okay. Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mr. Wigton.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4? All right. Entertain a motion for approval of previous board minute meeting.
So moved.
Second.
No discussion.
Discussion.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mr. Wigton.
4.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. Under E, presentation of certificates.
We do have one presentation tonight.
Is there anyone come up? All right, so after 34 years of teaching, Janelle Aaron is retiring officially as of next Friday. Since 1999, she's been a dedicated part of Madison School, showing her love of music and inspiring students to develop a lifelong appreciation for it. Through her passion and commitment, she's not only helped students grow musically, but also built their confidence and creativity. Madison has been a very special place for her, and her impact on students in the school will be felt for many years. So we just want to say congratulations, and we
Thank you.
enjoy your well-deserved retirement.
Thank you. I'm
So-
looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right, at this time, we go to item F, recognition of any visitor or visitor comments. Seeing none, we go to item G, administrative.
Wait a minute.
You have one.
Oh, sorry. Please come up and identify yourself.
Okay, good. I know.
Hi, I'm Laura Pittman, and I live at 2784 Washington South Road. I'm a resident of Richland County. I moved here in February 2002 from Wayne County, and I'm currently a public school teacher in Wayne County. And I just wanted you guys to know that I did vote for your levy. I support Madison teachers. And I notice right now that I do have a sign in my yard that's red supporting the teachers. So I was wondering, since I had voted for the levy and it passed, I understand that the teachers are working without a contract right now. So I was just wondering, as a resident, did you not ask for enough money at the time, or if there's a standstill? I was just kind of curious because I don't get the paper. So I was just interested in knowing a little bit more.
I don't think we're at liberty to comment on negotiations.
Okay. Will something be put in the paper when things are decided?
Yes.
Okay. And even online?
Excuse me? I didn't-
Even online?
I imagine it's up to the paper to do that,
Okay.
but we can't speak about the contract while negotiations going on. But
Okay.
after everything's completed, I'm sure there'll be a statement.
Okay. Thank you. I hope you support your teachers.
Any other visitors' comment?
Crystal Copert. I mean, maybe I just missed it when you said, why did you say you were removing that item for the girls wrestling coaches?
For line item vote,
So it'll be
for
voted on?
separate vote.
Okay, because I see all the hours they are putting in, and so somebody definitely deserves that.
All right, any other visitor like to be recognized?
Hi, I'm Stevie Volkmer. I
Up
just
to the
live-
microphone so we can hear.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stevie Volkmer. I just live one street over.
I need an address.
378 Sabo Drive, Sabo. My concern is the morning drop-off line. My daughter's got 4 tardies because we sit so long. I leave my house at 7:35 a.m., and she sometimes doesn't get to get out of the car until 7:52, and then she gets tardies, and, you know, she's going to end up with a detention. So I was wondering why they can't do like 2 lines like they do at Eastview Elementary, so the line goes faster, because I sit 15 minutes or more in line, and then I end up late for work when she's late for school. So I just wondered if you guys could try to get together and come to some kind of resolution as to making that, like, the drop-off line more productive.
We can take it under advisement, but it's up to the superintendent to look into it, and he'll have to get a hold of the bus garage, too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other visitor like to make comment? Seeing none? Let's go to G, Administrative Committee reports. Legislative,
No report.
Athletic Board has not met. Student representative comments?
Hello. For those who do not know me, my name is Elise Huggins. I am this year's Student Council President. And to start, I can speak for almost everyone. We loved our snow days, all of them. I love sleeping in, especially as a senior. And so I'm hoping for one tomorrow. And then, so academic early release was last week, which started our 4-day weekend, which was amazing once again. And then OCC leadership went to Worcester Retreat last week to meet with all the other schools about what they're doing in their schools. And Student Council is hosting our annual volleyball tournament this year on March 7th at the middle school. Teams are starting to get put together in hopes to win the grand prize of Common Grounds gift cards, which I obviously will be going for, because obviously, who wouldn't like coffee in the morning? To start all of our sports, this is a long list. Girls basketball ended their season winning 6 games and creating exciting games for fans to watch. Boys basketball starts tournaments tomorrow against Lexington at Lexington in hopes to advance and continue their season. Baseball is starting to prepare for their season with open gyms and hitting. They officially start their season on Monday. Softball tryouts also took place, getting our girls ready for their spring season. Track is getting ready to start their season, and our Eagles eager for warmer weather to come our way so they can get out on the track. Madison is starting up a new tradition called the Lip Sync Battle, which will raise money for United Way. Key Club and MSI have teamed up together to create this amazing event. Parent-teacher conferences take place starting tomorrow, which many teachers are out preparing for. While I stand here talking to you all, my goal is to not tell you guys what to do and what not to do. However, after all the events I just spoke about in my monthly speech, just remember the people who make it possible, our teachers. All these events I listed have a teacher present at them. We rely on them to make our school run smoothly and create a fun environment for all the students. I love my teachers, which inspire me to become one myself in the future. With all these upcoming meetings, I hope you solidify our teacher contracts so we can keep our amazing teachers here at Madison. I'll see you guys all next week with hopes of a Common Grounds gift card. Have a good month.
All right, thank you very much. Facilities. No report. Board policy?
Our committee met last week and to review lots of policies that will be coming your way soon, and I've brought them with me if you guys want to take a peek at the end if you're interested in knowing what some of that language looks like. They're right here.
Thank you.
Yep.
Student achievement.
At Madison South, after students completed the mid-year iReady diagnostic, 73% of South students are already at or above 50% growth for the year in ELA. They look forward to seeing where they finish up at the end of the year. At Mifflin, students have been reading The Adventures of a South Pole Pig and taking weekly booklet quizzes for a classroom contest that is being tracked by moving decorated pigs around the cafeteria. Families are reading the book at home with students participating in various activities. 2 students from the early childhood classes from Career Tech gave outstanding presentations to Mifflin kindergarten and 3rd grade students. The Purple Star students also celebrated Valentine's Day with a special project for their loved ones serving in the military. Mifflin is looking forward to presenting at the Senior Citizen Luncheon tomorrow at the high school. At Eastview, they just finished up a fundraiser led by Student Council to help raise funds for the United Way. They also just had their kickoff for the school-wide book, The Chocolate Touch. At the high school, on Friday, February 7th, they had their second 9-week academic recognition breakfast and awards presentations. This included all A's, honor rolls, and scholar athletes. A special thanks goes out to Mrs. Dillon for arranging everything. This past Thursday, the high school held its quarterly academic early release. This is a chance to reward students who are achieving passing grades in all classes, and also a time for struggling students to get things back on track and have some intervention time working with their teachers. The recent NHS Red Cross blood drive collected 55 units, which has the potential to save 165 lives. This was another tremendous success from the NHS and Mrs. Burden. At the Career Center, they have an 88% certification passage rate, 6 out of 6 for welding, 1 out of 1 for cosmetology, and 0 out of 1 for advanced cosmetology. The Career Center has been busy enrolling students. 43 students have chosen to continue their education and joined MACC programs in 2025, with more program start dates to come. In cosmetology and advanced cosmetology, 5 students. In customer and office support technology, 2 students. In medical assisting technology, 9 students. Phlebotomy and EKG, 11 students. Precision machining and CNC, 8 students. ST&A, 4 students. And welding, 4 students. And just as a side note, they didn't provide this, but it's exciting to see that the Career Center is now offering online courses. So I think that's really awesome. So, and that's all.
Thank you. Superintendent update.
Going to start by teasing you just a little bit. Received some information today regarding an award that Madison South will be receiving from the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. But Madison South is also going to be presenting at next month's meeting, so I'm going to let them share that news. We have 4 weeks left in the 3rd quarter, and state testing is right around the corner. It looks like the first day of testing in the district will be April 1st, and that is no April Fool's joke. This year's Olympics, I'll give you share the dates with that. It's Thursday, May 15th. That will take place over at Ram Field at 6 o'clock. And the makeup date, since it, of course, never rains in May, will be Monday, May 19th. So Thursday, May 15th for the Olympics at 6 o'clock with a makeup date of Monday, May 19th. And some very exciting news in regard to our planned turf project. We made application to the Grant Mill Iron Foundation for a grant of $200,000 to go towards resurfacing the football field and part of that, the planned turf project, and our grant application was approved for a $200,000 donation. I didn't have that in time to include it on the agenda, so that will be on next month's agenda, but very exciting news and very appreciative of their generosity. Senior Citizen Luncheon will be tomorrow at 11:30, and I do have somewhere here in my stack, I hope I do, a agenda item from the 100 years of Madison, and maybe I don't have it, but I will share with you, oh, here it is, right in front of me. Dating back to 2010, prior to this building being built, just a couple agenda items that I wanted to share with you. First one, the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the resolution authoring issuance of not to not to exceed $25,800,161 of bonds for permanent improvements after submission to the electors. And I checked with Mr. Stevens today to see how much was still owed on those bonds of about $26 million. And currently, I think it's $32 million we owe on that. So we're still working on the interest for that. And I think those bonds are supposed to be paid off in 2043, I believe. And then one more item just similar to that. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the resolution for the professional design services agreement with Garmin and Miller and Associates for the Segment 1 project. So again, that's some more recent history that we're pretty familiar with, but albeit some important history of the district. And that concludes my report.
I'm going to ask you, Rob, if you would please, it's been asked to remove the line item to vote on, but can you give us an update why you made a recommendation for approval of the following for the girls wrestling?
Sure. I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version, but give some detail to that. And the reason for why it's so late. Mr. Rickert came to me, gosh, I don't know when he first came to me, probably in December, to talk about girls wrestling because it's basically become a new sport here in the last few years, and it's a growing sport across Ohio. And there were multiple things that we had to take into consideration as we tried to determine how to handle the coaching for girls wrestling and how to compensate those who were doing it. As I said, it's a growing sport. Many districts are dealing with the complexity of how to compensate coaches. It's very different from any other combined girls and boys sport that we have. And what makes it really different is throughout the regular season, for example, in swimming or track, which are combined boys and girls sports, their meets take place at the same time at the same place. Whereas girls wrestling, all of the tournaments are on Sundays. And so the coaches who are doing the coaching of the girls are spending, and if you don't know anything about wrestling tournaments, they're long days. And so the coaches, between the travel, and I've seen where they're going, and they're going all over the state of Ohio for these tournaments, spending long days and doing it with no compensation. And so Mr. Rickert and I, no pun intended, wrestled with this, trying to determine how to do it because it's complex. You're dealing, if we're going to create a supplemental or a paid position, you got to have conversation with the teachers union about that. There's Title IX issues when you're talking about boys and girls sports. And so it's very complex. We tried to take our time and be thorough. We thought at one point that we would hire a separate head wrestling coach for the girls and had agreement with the teachers union on that. As a matter of fact, they were the ones that were even suggested that. We interviewed for it. There was only one candidate, thought we were going to move forward with that, and then I think there was a change of mind as far as agreement with the union. So we went back to the drawing board, and essentially what we decided on was if you look at those three stipends and total them up, they total about $4,350, which is the amount of what an assistant wrestling coach with more experience, at the higher level experience, which is what we would have paid for that supplemental. Assistant wrestling coaches under the supplementals make about 61% of what the head coach makes with a head coach supplemental. What we did was divided that supplemental up into three and are paying the assistant girls wrestling coaches about 61% of what we're paying the head wrestling coach with that stipend. They went to 10 girls wrestling tournaments throughout the year, and like I said, those are long hours. This is not an extensive amount of pay and compensation, but very proud of our girls wrestling program and definitely believe that these coaches need compensated for, especially for what they're doing on those Sundays and those tournaments. And so I guess I want you and anybody who's interested to be aware that this was a lengthy process that Mr. Rickert and I invested a lot of time, energy, and effort and research in to make this decision and to come up with the compensation that we did. And it's something that districts are laboring with all over. Mr. Rickert talked to several districts, and everybody was doing something a little bit different. There was very little consistency in what different districts were doing. I personally am very proud of the time, effort, and energy that Mr. Rickert and I put into this, and the decision that we came to. It was not done, and it was not reached easily, and we were very thorough with this. So I guess that's what I wanted to share.
Are we going to post the position then next year?
I think we would handle it similarly to what we would do with a supplemental, and honestly, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay.
But
So you're anticipating next year just continuing to do an additional supplemental for the existing boys coach?
yeah, I mean, these guys have done a great job with the girls program and deserve the opportunity to do it again if they so choose.
All right, thank you. H, presentation. Sorry, Mr. Turley?
That's all right. I think it should be on your computers as well. I didn't print out, so trying to save a little bit of money. So Madison Student Services Department, obviously, I appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight. Looking at the number of students we serve, it's always overwhelming to kind of take a look at that. We have 484 students K through 12 who receive services through special education, 48 center-based preschool students through our preschool program at Madison South with Mrs. Eckenweiler in charge, 18 itinerant preschool students, which if you don't know what that means, they receive services outside of the regular preschool classroom. Usually they're younger students, and we're trying to get their needs addressed prior to getting them into the center-based program. We have 110 students in non-public schools in Madison district boundaries that receive special education services. Through Ohio law, if a student attends a non-public school that is within our boundaries, so in that case for us, those schools are St. Mary's and Mansfield Christian. St. Mary's involves us quite a bit as far as going there, and I'm invited to those meetings by Mrs. Brubaker on a regular basis, and we meet on a regular basis. And then Mansfield Christian kind of runs their own program, so we just support with our school psychologist. Mr. Whitman goes out and provides those. We've had 55 requests for evaluation this year. It kind of starts the process for us. So if a parent comes in and says that they would like the student to be evaluated for special education, we then have to start that process and we get put on a timeline. So those are kind of there's no negotiating that process. There was 91 requests overall for last year. So you can see we get requests, strangely get an uptick at a time that interims go out, and we strangely get requests about time that grades come out, because parents see the grades and think that that's going to be the quick solution, but we go through the process to make sure that the student would qualify. Our office, out of our office over there, obviously Heather Rickards, our secretary, does a fantastic job. She's taken on more roles, more responsibilities throughout the years that I've been there. Kristen Hutchison is our school psych for 512. Mr. Whitman is our school psych for pre-K 4 and our non-publics. They're going to adjust that a little bit next year because to maintain their caseload, Kristen's is going to be a little low, so she's going to take on 4th grade. And that way it helps Mr. Whitman or Nate with his caseload to kind of try and even it out. Jacob Littleton's been a new addition this year. He's our associate to the school psych. He is attending classes at University of Toledo right now to become a school psychologist. He is incredibly intelligent. He actually programs some with AI, so he's got some kind of interesting things within his background, and he does a great job. He's really kind of, I think, pushed the boundaries of our office to use technology a little bit more to make us a little bit more efficient as well. Jen Eckenweiler does a fantastic job within our preschool program. She's taken that program and run with it. I think she does wonderful things that not only for the kids, but for the parents as well, that really build that community aspect. John Agin is our director of Sunshine and Roses, or Sunshine and Rainbows, as I like to say. He is a constant beacon of positivity, and he's in the office writing IEPs and providing home instruction to students. If you don't know him, you need to know him. He's probably the nicest person I've ever met, and obviously myself as a director. Just kind of an overview of, sometimes I think people don't understand the breadth of what student services provides. We have 43 intervention specialists, 28 special education aides, parapros. I did not update that for the right wording. We have 5 nurses, or working on getting 5 nurses, 1 for each building. We have 5 speech-language pathologists who work between the buildings to maintain caseloads to make sure they're equal. We had speech-language pathologist from Eastview who goes over to South to support because South has a large number of students that receive speech services. We have 2 occupational therapists and 4 occupational therapy assistants from EJ Therapy, 1 physical therapist and 2 physical therapy assistants from EJ Therapy to provide gross motor. Occupational therapists provide fine motor, and as well as sensory support. We have an audiologist from Catalyst who supports our students who have hearing devices, orientation mobility specialist, and teacher of the visually impaired, both from Mid-Ohio ESC. They come in and provide services for students who have identified vision needs. Interpreter from Catalyst, who's a sign language interpreter, and then through Catalyst, we also have a child and adolescent counselor who comes in and provides mental health services, and we have family life counseling who comes in and provides mental health services, and that's from a grant through the Mental Health Board. One of the new things we implemented this year was Hazel Health. It's just getting off the ground. Everyone's kind of gone through training, and we're working on getting referrals to them, but that was a grant that Mr. Peterson and myself had found, and through the state of Ohio, it's free, of no cost to us, just cost of having people trained, and then it allows students to receive mental health services through telehealth. So through an iPad, they provide the iPad, they provide the services. Services can take place within the school hours. They can also take place while the student's at home. But it's an access point for those students because we are an area that requires a lot of mental health services, but we don't support a lot of mental health professionals. So there's a lot of telehealth services that are being provided out there right now. So we sought that out and were able to win that, or to earn that grant. Looking at our special ed profile, so kind of our grade card, it's based on 23-24 data. All the areas in white are areas that we met. So early childhood transitions, which means they're coming from preschool to, or that's from grade 3 to, not grade 3, prior to age 3, they're identified and have an IEP in place. Alternate assessment participation. The expectation from the state is that only 1% of our students takes part in the alternate assessment. We didn't meet that. I don't feel that that's a reasonable expectation as of right now, and I feel like we provide that alternate assessment in a reasonable form. We do a checklist that's required from, or not required, but recommended from the state, and we kind of meet those students' needs where they are. You can see the others we've met. Graduation rate, the state sets a rate for us. Dropout rate is another state recommendation. Secondary transition means a student that is turning 14 within that IEP year or older has a secondary transition plan, which means that we're talking about competitive integrative employment, education, and independent living skills. Post-school outcomes is looking at what students are doing after schools. Timely initial evaluations is the other area where we didn't meet our goal. We met the goal for 71 of 72 initial evaluations that we had last year, and the one we did not meet was, I found the error. There's a drop-down box where you have to choose that a consent was granted for an initial evaluation or consent's granted for a reevaluation. And our school psychologist put consent granted for an initial evaluation on a reevaluation. So it's a reporting error. I'll have to do some work on creating a procedure in order to address that, but we are providing the services that are needed. That is just literally a clerical error on that point of the one student. So this is kind of where the special education rating system for the state. You can see they really know how to make you feel great, meets requirements. So you meet that standard. Ours was based on the 22-23 data. We met 8 out of 8 indicators. Our compliance score was 4 out of 4, and our overall projected rating is 4. So we scored every point that we could within that. And this is kind of comparison of from 2016-17 year onto this year. This is the first year we've been back to a level 4 since, or that 4 out of 4 since the COVID year. In COVID year, there was a lot of exceptions in there, so I'm really proud of that's a work of everyone, the intervention specialists, our secretaries, our EMIS coordinator, our school psychologist. Means that everyone's doing what they need to do in order for us to not only have the paperwork in a timely manner, but to have it done correctly as well. Everyone's favorite term, compliance. It's a big part of my job. This year we implemented a 504 handbook and 504 tracking forms that were then transformed by the middle school principals to make it a little more user-friendly and a little more visually appealing as well. But that's kind of one thing that got taken on by me where we needed to do a few things differently. We've started to address those things, and my goal is to have everyone caught up by the end of this year to where we're compliant across the board. The secondary thing that we've implemented this year is an internal monitoring form for the school psychologist. So every evaluation that comes in, they submit a checklist to me. I then take the first 4. I do a shortened checklist where I'm looking at dates and kind of tracking some of the things that are for compliance. There's one out of every 5, I'm taking a long sheet, which is a double-sided sheet. I'm going through, I'm looking at the evaluations, I'm looking at the areas that they're evaluating, and making sure that we have some data in there and that we're not only talking about where there's deficits, but also talking about where the student has relative strength as well, because we need some strengths in there as well. Every quarter, I have the intervention specialist submit, let me know when their progress reports are done. Once they're done, I take 5 from each intervention specialist. So within that progress report review, I look for things like they have the number of data points that are equal to the goal. They're using data. It can't just be that little Jimmy's doing well. It has to be that Jimmy was able to do this 4 out of 4 times when given 10 problems and match the goal. So we're really trying to make sure that that's how we can show that our students are making that growth. That's the reason why they have their IEP. New additions, within the elementaries, we kind of shifted units a little bit in order for us to be able to take, we have a couple of academic units where we are kindergarten through second grade and third and fourth grade. And last year, we had a behavioral unit that provided supports that was kindergarten through fourth grade. We took that and split that into a kindergarten through second grade and a third and fourth grade so that we didn't have that wide range of age of those students. Other new addition is just in that room right over there. Mr. Gibson, Mr. Nelson went over to Crestline and got a lot of supplies for, I think they were free. You show up and they really wanted to give the people kind of resell things. So they went over once a week in the summer and came back with truckloads of stuff and handed out not only to teachers, but they also found some things for the sensory room as well. It's been well used this year. Students are able to go down there, kind of regulate themselves, get themselves back into a spot where they can learn, then get themselves back into class. So they go down with support and then are able to return to class. So collaboration, working with building school counselors and revision of 504 processes, we're really trying to work through and make sure those are up to date and current. Constantly working on creation and exploration of programs to support all of our students in the career tech programs. Working with building administrators and working within those IEP teams to make sure that if there's a student that has complex needs or maybe they need a shortened day for a little bit, we're meeting to meet those needs and we're constantly working to change those. That includes, I don't think Mike's here tonight, but Mike Yost and the phone calls I give to him. I know he doesn't like hearing from me because usually I'm like, hey, can we do a transportation? Can we do a route here? Is there any way we can pick up a kid here? But he constantly finds ways to kind of work through those. And then I worked with the high school coordinator, Mr. Roth, this summer. We went through each student on an IEP and looked at their schedule and tried to make sure that within their schedule they were seeing their case manager. Because in the past that hadn't always worked out, so we're really trying to hone in on that as well. Just some ideas of communication. My monthly newsletter, I aim for monthly. Sometimes it's more like quarterly, but it does go out. I'm looking at alignment of procedures and any legal updates. We've done professional development for paraprofessionals this year, and a meeting with the high school and elementary intervention specialists to make sure that they're updated on procedures and compliance reminders. In addition, Mr. Grove and I talked about kind of giving career tech staff just kind of a flyover special education 101, like who to contact if they have questions about a student that has an IEP, kind of the services and supports that are available, and just trying to make sure that everyone has that chance. And then also within the past week, we did some training with the high school intervention specialists over transition planning. Work to be continued through the end of the year is working with building level staff to ensure 504 lists are up to date, continuing projections for grades and buildings. At this point in time of the year, I do a count of where we are for each building, each grade level, but I'm also looking at projecting it into next year and what that looks like. And then creating a self-review form to be used by our intervention specialists and school psychologists quarterly, to kind of do a more deep dive into their documents. That was everything I had. If anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Line item I, approval donations, number 1, 2, 3, and 4. We entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to thank all those donors. Definitely appreciate all that they do and their generosity for the district.
Vote, please.
Mr. Wigton?
Yes.
Mrs. Melissa Walker?
4.
Miss Amy Walker?
4.
Mrs. Cotterman?
4.
Mr. Mosier?
4. Item J, treasurer business. Entertain a motion.
I'll motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah. So the first thing we're going to talk about is revenues. Rather than look at the month over month, because there's a lot of, it's skewed because of a lot of mistiming of payments, I'd like to look at the fiscal year over year to date. And the good news is, in November when I did the forecast, it was around 4.8% increase is what I forecasted, and right now we're at 4.5. So I'll take 0.3% difference. And, you know, we're about almost 60% of the way through the fiscal year, so that's pretty good. The only, it's not in here, because this, after I gave you guys this report at the beginning of the month, the governor's proposal for the new biennium budget came out with a simulation. Now, I don't want to alarm you guys too much, because it's not going to be passed till July, and it's still got to go through the House and the Senate. It's got a whole bunch of votes, but at this point in time, the governor's proposal is not going to help us out compared to what I had forecasted, because his proposal kept the base cost at FY22 base costs, and keep in mind it's going to be FY26 when the new biennium budget comes out. So we talk about inflation. They want to go ahead and say, hey, you guys have property valuation go up, so you're wealthier, but they're not going to say, well, base cost went up, so you're spending more. So I'm not too happy with the governor's budget simulation, but there's a lot of time between now and July, and a lot of things that can change. But revenues, at least for this year, right now, we're on track. Expenditures are a different story. So as far as salaries and benefits go, we're on track with what I forecasted, even though benefits are like almost over 10.5% higher this year than they were last year. I anticipated that because we all knew that health insurance was just going to drive expenditures through the roof. So, 10.6% increase over last year is a huge increase. But some of the things that I was not anticipating were like all those purchase services that Mr. Turlow talked about. Those are all expenditures that are purchase services, all those, therapies and nursing services and all that stuff we have to pay for. And as inflation goes up, those go up, and we really can't control it. And the market demands certain salaries, and we don't have the ability to say, nope, we're not going to service that child, but that, particular therapy. So we're kind of stuck. The second thing is there's been more times than I'd like to admit people coming into my office this year saying, we don't have enough money budgeted because this broke, or we've got a problem with this breaking, or this. It's been, since I've been here, probably the worst 6 months for things going amiss as far as gas lines, roofs, water lines, things like that, and all that costs money. So that being said, purchase services and supplies are up. So even though I forecasted in November around a 3% increase, we're at 8.6. Now, could that change by the end of the fiscal year? Yeah, it could. It'd be nice if things slowed down and we got closer to the 5% increase, but the trend is not happening that way. The trend is the opposite. People aren't coming in and saying, hey, you got too much money budgeted. It's the opposite. These are the same ones. I didn't change them because honestly there's no data that's changed, and it's all from FY22, and that's all comes from ODEW. And then the very last one is where we are in the forecast. Like I said, if you look revenues last year, this year, we're both at 51% of what is forecasted, which is dead on. We're 58.6% through the fiscal year. We're at 59% of what is forecasted as far as expenditures, which sounds great, but when you look at last year, we were only at 56%. So that's why when I emailed you these board reports, I said I was a little bit nervous about the way the trends are going, and I'm not gonna, I don't want to wait till May and give you bad news. I want to kind of forewarn you that it's
now.
Well, I want to forewarn you that it's a very distinct possibility that things may not be as he said, what'd you say, rainbows and kittens? I might not be full of rainbows and kittens in May. Not that I am normally anyway, but so that's the monthly report. Before I move on to 2, 3, and 4, are there questions on the monthly report? Would you like to discuss anything?
In your email, you talked about possibly having a work session.
Yeah, I would like to, but the board, since it would be a board work session, I would really like to have a work session to discuss some things, but I would think that since it's your board meeting, since I'm not, I'm an employee of you, I really shouldn't direct you what to do. You need to, so that'd be a great idea to have a work session. I think it's very important, so.
Can we plan something for March then?
Sure.
We can look at it, then come back to it, get some dates.
Okay.
Okay. Number 2, it says approve the health insurance premium rates for calendar year '25. This has never been done here. We were going through the audit, and the auditor said, that should be something that gets put on the board agenda. So they have already been implemented. It's not something that I just pull out. It's Medical Mutual and our broker saying, here's where you're at in your self-insurance fund. Here's where the claims are, trends are. Here's what you need to try to get to where you're supposed to be. So they're just the same rates. It's not that I have any control over it. I just have to have you guys approve it. And that's what the auditor said this year. And by the way, we had a state auditor this year, which was completely different than the last 10 years that we've had with Julian Group. And I think the administrators out there that have dealt with the auditors are all going to agree with me that this has not been a pleasant year for our audit. Number 3, approve the 2025 mileage reimbursement at the IRS rate effective 7/1 of '25. The reason it's 7/1 of '25 is because that is in the negotiated agreement when it's going to change. The reason I'm putting it on here, and the reason it should have been on the organizational meeting, is because in that board policy, it says that every year you'll approve the IRS rates, so that's what it is.
What's the current IRS rate?
I think it's 73 cents a month, or 70? 70 something.
70.
It's low 70s.
Low 70s. I think it was like 73 or something.
70.
70?
70.
Okay. But we're not going to change it until July 1st. And number 4, the following resolution, it's so we can be added to the bid process for the electric consortium, so they can put us on, so when they go out for the rates and we get the rates, we can be included in that.
Is this new for us, this consortium?
No, it was the last time around.
Okay, I was thinking we
yeah.
had done this
Yeah,
before.
we did. We switched from Ohio Schools Council to Meta,
Okay.
because it was they got us a better rate. So that is 1 through 4. Questions? All right. Mrs. Melissa Walker?
4.
Mr. Wigton?
4.
Miss Amy Walker?
4.
Mrs. Cotterman?
4.
Mr. Mosier?
4. Item K, strategic plan, facilities.
All right, I'm John Neron, Operations Supervisor. It's a strategic plan for facilities improvement and development. My cohort tonight, Nikki Cox, couldn't make it here this evening. Her daughter's playing in a district basketball tournament, so. All right. So our goal, Madison Local Schools provides a safe and healthy, accessible learning environment to meet the 21st century educational, extra co-curricular, and community needs. So our first goal is facilities improvements and design. So we are addressing ADA compliance in all buildings and all of our athletic venues. This is something that we've been working on in the past. Steve Christ had started this. Still working on it. We're looking, hopefully by April of 2026, we'll have something in place to get started throughout our high school gymnasium, adding extra seating in there for ADA compliance, as well as the football field. Our next goal is the facilities improvement and development. So addressing needs and improvement in the augmentation of the district's IT infrastructure. So we have, IT has been working on, ongoing for the past few years, technology-focused professional development, as well as continuing to improve and maintain systems that will support the growth and technology intergeneration throughout the district. Also, to build a safe, secure, and robust infrastructure to handle the needs of today's and tomorrow's technologies. The third is our closed caption television systems throughout our district. They've been implementing new cameras throughout. We've also gotten quotes out through Schmidt Security to have our athletic fields blanketed with security cameras. This is something that we have at our football field, for example, on our home and our away bleachers. We have one camera. There's a lot of dead space throughout that facility. So we have gone out to look for improvements to blanket everything from the soccer field throughout the football field, behind the bleachers, things of that nature. And so hopefully by April 2026, we'll be able to implement these. Our last goal is facility safety improvements. Auditing facilities and partnering with the principals and staff to provide enhanced safety measures. So there are 3 action steps we took here. Our first, high school asphalt, main parking area. This has been an ongoing project. We are in stage 2 of 4 to get the high school parking lots paved. We are, August of this year, we'll hopefully have our second stage done, and throughout the next 4 years, or next 3 years coming, we will finish out that project. Continuing to monitor asphalt at existing buildings and athletic complexes with the intent to repair and replace over the next 7 to 10 years. So this is playgrounds at some of the elementary schools that are asphalt. They're starting to crack and crumble. We're doing what we can to maintain them, but over the next 7 to 10 years, we plan on replacing these. And then the other item we had on was a donation of an ADA adaptive swing and a Griffin chime, which is like a musical instrument, that has been donated to the middle school through Amy O'Connell, and she applied for a service learning grant, and she is the cross-categorical teacher at the high school. So her and her students, they received this grant for $5,000 and have purchased 2 pieces of equipment. We will replace one of the swings at the back here at the middle school with an ADA-approved adaptive swing. So it's basically like a chair-style swing where they can load the child in there and at least have them be incorporated and the ability to enjoy these type of things. So, and that is all I have.
All
Any
right.
questions?
Anybody?
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Item L, matters relate to personal, entertain a motion with the exception of under B, the superintendent recommends the following stipend for the girls wrestling will be voted on separately. Entertain a motion to support.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. Melissa Walker?
4.
Mrs. Cotterman?
4.
Miss Amy Walker?
4.
Mr. Wigton?
4.
Mr. Mosier?
4. Now going back to the superintendent recommend for the stipend of the new girls wrestling program, I would entertain a motion to separate assistant girls positions from the head wrestling position, as I got to exclude myself from that position.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Who was the second? I'm sorry. Amy? Sorry. Okay, Mr. Wigton?
4.
Miss Amy Walker?
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker?
4.
Mrs. Cotterman?
4.
Mr. Mosier?
4. So we'll vote on the assistant girls wrestling position first. In support of the superintendent recommendation, entertain a motion to agree to this.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, please. I would like to make a motion to just postpone these votes.
That would be out of order.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, well,
I
you
spoke
can't-
to the
you can't-
Ohio School Board Association, and
you
they
can't make
advised
them-
me when we needed to do this.
You have to remove the item before the agenda is approved.
That's not what the Ohio School Board
Yeah,
Association
we
told me
checked
when I
with
spoke to
OSU.
them today.
I believe it's out of order, if I can finish speaking, for the simple fact that the motion's on the floor, and once that motion is carried out, you can't make a motion during another motion. You can make an amendment if you like to, but you can't make a motion on top of a motion.
That's not what the Ohio School Board Association advised me today when I spoke to them.
Do you have that with us so we can review? I didn't think so.
No, that's your responsibility to be prepared and to make those calls if you need
Exactly.
that
So
information.
do you have that with you?
I made those calls and I got that information.
But you were not willing to share it with the rest of us?
I just did. Yes, I
So
just did.
you have it in writing.
No,
All right.
as I said,
So is there a second to that motion? We'll follow through, but I believe it's out of order. Is there a second to the motion?
yes, I second.
All right. For the second motion to postpone it, this will be in favor for with a yes and a no vote with a no.
I'd like to discuss.
Any discussion?
Yes. Rob, can you explain, please, was there a threshold for the number of girls to participate where you would have, last year we had 4, this year we had 10. Last year, there was no recommendation for any additional funds. Can you explain what that number would have been when you would have?
I don't know what that number was or would be. What I would say to that is we probably should have paid them last year.
So when I spoke to Mr. Rickert, he advised that this was for the meets only. He advised they were 9 meets at about 12 to 14 hours per meet. That comes out to, with these dollar amounts, that comes out to paying between $9.52 and $15.47 per hour for these meets. That, in my opinion, that seems to be a lot. I know that they're doing additional things above and beyond just the meets. However, they have not added time to practices, to my understanding. So it is only for the, when I spoke to Mr. Rickert, this is only for the meets.
Got a point of clarification. Technically, there's only 2 girls that participated last year, not 4. 4 signed up, only 2 wrestled. The other point that you're asking about, Rob, I can answer, is that they put in multiple hours, including extra practice time. So I don't know if you've talked to the coaches, which I assumed you did not, but they put in extra time on travel with the tournaments, and they actually got the sectionals coming up this Friday. I do know they put quite a bit of extensive time on Sunday because those tournaments average anywhere from weigh-ins at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they may not be getting home till 9, 10 o'clock at night.
And $9 to $15 doesn't seem like a big deal to pay somebody per
When I just heard our
hour.
financial report, it does to me.
Yeah, but $4,300 out of a budget like this is
Can I
petty.
Yes.
talk about why I made a motion to postpone? I have a couple reasons why I just want to postpone it, that's it, which just means maybe push it back a couple months.
Well, how's that fair to coaches?
Well, let me explain a couple of things, at least my point of view or the way I feel. We did post the position for a head coach, and I appreciate all the work you and Mr. Rickert did talking about everything. And I was told the concern was there was a fear of like possible Title IX violations, so that's why we needed a separate head coach. And then we didn't fill that position or an assistant's position. I also have concerns because I think our main focus and what the whole focus of the district is the teachers' negotiations and their contracts. So I just feel like it's not a good time. It just doesn't feel right to me. And then I know the coaches' pay and even these stipends come from our general fund. So like I can comprehend and understand this actually saves us money overall, as opposed to if we hired a whole nother, girls coach, and I think you have to have the same amount of assistant coaches you do for boys if you did separate it out. However, the coaches' contracts come up again in a couple months. I know they were on our agenda last April. So I just think we could take a step back, maybe really look at what we need for this program, how we want to structure it, because I totally agree with you, it's a completely different beast. It's not like any other sport, like we talked about that in the interview. And we just have, and make sure, how do we want to do this? How do we want it staffed properly? What if the girls grows and there's 15 girls? Do we need a head coach? Is there going to be a limit where we go, okay, we do need 2 separate programs? you know what, let's have discussions and figure out how we want to do this going forward. So long-term that, you know, we can structure this program for the future. And that's the only reasons, like, I would just postpone it. It's, you know, just wait a couple months. Maybe teachers' things will calm down, settle down. And-
So you're making a motion to table it?
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
the OSBA
No,
said to
a
postpone.
motion to table would mean that it would need to be addressed later in the
So
meeting.
yes.
according to Ohio
Yeah,
School
postpone
Board
means,
Association.
yeah, right, like a couple
Postponing
meetings or
means it
something.
would be at a later
Yeah,
meeting.
that's it.
I think they're synonymous according to parliamentary procedures, but yeah.
Okay, OSBA interpreted that differently, but yeah, they.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that on my own, have OSBA.
What's that?
Any other discussion
OSBA, I wouldn't be able
on
to do that
the
on my own.
second motion?
So vote no means we forget the motion and move on to
Right.
the other vote.
Correct. If you vote yes, it supports the motion to postpone. A vote no would be to go ahead with the first motion.
Okay?
All right? Everybody understand that? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cotterman,
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker,
4.
Miss Amy Walker,
Against.
Mr. Wigton,
Against.
Mr. Mosier.
Against? Yeah, I can.
Sorry.
For this one, I can. Now we're going to go back to the motion for the assistant girls wrestling coach's position, which just, I can vote on, just to let everybody know. So I would entertain a motion to support the superintendent's decision and recommendation for the assistant girls wrestling coaches.
I thought Miss Amy Walker already firsted and Mr.
Yep.
Wigton already seconded.
Yes.
We
Get
did.
ready to vote.
Ready?
Yep.
Miss Amy Walker,
4.
Mr. Wigton,
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker,
Against?
Mrs. Cotterman,
Against?
Mr. Mosier.
4.
That's it.
Now we go to the head girls wrestling position. And a vote of yes would be to support the recommendation of the superintendent. A vote of no would be not to support it. And I must exclude myself from this.
So we need-
Any other discussion? Seeing none, go ahead for roll call.
Don't we need a motion for that, or is it under this?
It was to separate them. So we'll entertain a motion to support
So moved.
the recommendation of the superintendent.
I'll second.
Mr. Wigton,
4.
Miss Amy Walker,
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker,
Against?
Mrs. Cotterman,
Against?
and Mr. Mosier has to abstain.
And we will move to superintendent business, item M. Entertain a motion to support the superintendent business.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion?
Just a couple brief comments. Items 3 and 4, which are recommendations to consider a reduction in force. Those are required items in the case that we would have to reduce some positions. So that's just a formal action. Have no idea at this point what those positions might be or how many. And then number 6, that is a resolution that is required by new law that recently passed. So that's all.
Motion?
Mrs. Melissa Walker,
4.
Mrs. Cotterman,
4.
Miss Amy Walker,
4.
Mr. Wigton,
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. We'll go to item N, visitors' comments. Is there any visitors who'd like to make any more comments? All right, seeing none. President's business. Our next regular Board of Education meeting, March 19th, 6 p.m. We have to go into executive session, so I'll entertain a motion to do so.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion?
Mr. Wigton,
4.
Mrs. Cotterman,
4.
Miss Amy Walker,
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker,
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. We'll be back shortly in a little bit. I don't think there'll be a vote, will they, Rob?
No.
No vote. You're more than welcome to stick around, but you gotta go home, we understand.